This episode is brought to you by Libra D5 Animal Farms NFT series. These 2,500 uniquely generated NFTs will give you an all-access pass to the Libra platform with additional perks like APR boosts for staking and farming, early access to the PTE gaming beta, and more. And if you mint with the Libra token, you'll get 2 NFTs for the price of 1. Visit LibraDeFi.io for more details on acquiring this awesome NFT series. Link in the description below.
Remember, these DAOs operate on the internet. They need a web presence, which means there's a domain name server somewhere. Okay, somebody's paying for it. It had to be paid for by somebody or it wouldn't be there. AWS, etc. Or you have your own hosting service. There's many ways to find out. Right now, if you look at my tweets, I give example of 3 or 4 different lawsuits against DAOs right now. And the DAOs are almost guaranteed to lose because they can't respond. They're so-called decentralized. Now, we all know that's a crock of nonsense, right? But let's assume they really are decentralized. If you're decentralized, you get sued, you can't respond. If you don't respond, you lose by default. It's called summary judgment. I mean, this is the part that hurts. You take that summary judgment paper, but let's assume it's a summary judgment. You take this summary judgment paper, and then you serve it to each and every member of the DAO. And each and every member of that DAO now is liable for the full amount of the lawsuit. Let's say it's a patent infringement suit, and there's $100 million worth of compensatory payments that are owed to XYZ. But because that DAO ignored the papers, now there's up to treble damages. So now that $100 million becomes $300 million. You invest in a DAO, you put a 1F. So you put roughly $4,000 into that DAO. I find you. You now owe me $300 million on your $4,000 investment.
If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube and membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here. It's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today I've got a returning guest, Reggie Middleton from Veritasium. We're going to talk to him about a PDF, a report he put out about DAOs, and I want to get his intel and perspective on the DAOs that he's talking about, because he brings up some pretty good points about DAOs not being as protected from legal issues as you may think. So it's great to have Reggie come on and talk to us. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe as well. Let's get Reggie in here real quick. Reggie, what's going on, man?
Not much.
You've been all right?
Been all right.
I missed you down, and I didn't get a chance to see you down in Miami. I heard you guys are having a blast down there.
Yeah, some of us were.
So today, I wanted to have you on. You sent this PDF, and I'll bring it up. Very interesting report regarding DAOs, right? And the audience would definitely love to hear you opine on how DAOs are not as great as maybe people think they're going to be. They're not like the latest invention since sliced bread. That's how we treat it here in the crypto space. But I think you have a different take on that. So I definitely want to talk to you about that. So first, though, I want to talk to you about updates on your patent. Like, what's going on with that? I saw a tweet you put out actually like a couple hours ago or last night regarding your patent, man. What's the latest with that? Are you making any headway?
It all depends on how you define headway. From our perspective, you come up with an invention, you implement the invention, you reduce it to practice is the technical term. You patent it, and you patent it, and you hopefully receive a patent. Once you receive the patent, that's actually just the beginning.
Right.
You actually have to learn the invention as it applies. Our patent process is very, very long. So from 2013 all the way to 2021. The industry has moved significantly since then, and we are learning how it's done. So as we learn the power of the patent, we're sharing and spreading the love. As I perceive it, my personal opinion, okay, fairly well-researched man, but my personal opinion is that the patent covers a significant swath of the crypto industry. We're talking about roughly 70%. Give or take. And that's including all the major platforms, and if it covers the major platforms, then it covers those who use those platforms. Give you an example: Bitcoin Lightning Network, Ethereum, Solana, RippleNet, and on-demand liquidity, Binance Smart Chain and the Binance Chain, and derivatives of those, plus the applications that run on top of them. Most of the applications, or many, not most, many applications that run on top of them infringe separately themselves.
I even see you had Decentraland in there. So yeah. We're going to get to that part about all these different DAOs and stuff. So I saw in your tweet, and I'll bring it back up for everyone. So it looks like you're having the same team that called the Bear Stearns Lehman EU crisis working with you. Am I reading that correctly? Yeah. Are they helping you?
Yeah. Members of the team. It's not the entire team, but members. Okay. And they've learned different, different skill set, as have I, as of we're all in crypto, because at least crypto, the industry now, it's not even that old. We talk about 13 years max. Right. So, I mentioned that because it's a credibility issue. When I make a big call, chances are it probably is big and it probably is correct. I haven't missed too many big calls, and the ones I hit were very, very, very big. When I say we're in trouble, the financial system looks like it's about to collapse. When I say something's big, very big, chances are it's very big. So, I said small firms were very, very big in 2009, 2008, where we are now. I said Bear Stearns, Lehman, etc. was going to collapse.
Yeah, I've had you on the channel so many times in the past. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, you definitely are someone I've been following well before cryptos, your CNBC days, your boom bust days, and, your own blog and everything. But, before we get into this DeFi or DAO stuff, I do want to touch on some non-crypto related stuff because I think it's pertinent. Like, where do you feel we are in the cycle of things with traditional markets? Like, I felt like we're getting toward the end with the Fed and raising interest rates. They're forced to now. How do you feel about the equity markets, and how does that correlate with cryptos?
The Fed and the interest rate raise is a big farce. It's a joke. So it's amazing how someone can say something that is blatantly incorrect. Blatantly, as in 1 + 1 = 19. But if they say it with enough authority, then everybody says, okay, well, 1 + 1 must equal 19.
Wait, so you're telling me that interest rate hikes won't have an effect on slowing down and cooling off the economy? I've heard this argument as well. I would just want you to kind of go into that further.
Well, number one, the economy is not hot. Okay, it's pretty cool as it is. Okay, the Fed has said the economy is running strong. Okay, but if you look at the people with 9-to-5 jobs, are they making more money with their salaries than they've ever made before? Okay. If anything, they're hurting because inflation is taking more out of their checks. But are they getting 30%, salary increases and 100% bonus increases?
Well, the inflation though is a symptom of an overheating economy, though. Am I correct? Price inflation, right?
No. The inflation is a symptom of a structural break in the economy. Okay, the prices are not high because everybody's making so much money that they're going out and spending that money and driving prices up. That's not why prices are high. Prices are high because COVID caused a shutdown, right? A massive shutdown for over a year. And then the methods of manufacturing and production are having a problem coming back online. Plus you have nationalism, okay? And that nationalism is causing, and populism is causing countries to become stingy with their resources versus sharing globally. So when you have a structural cause of inflation, raising interest rates are not going to fix it because it's not a demand-based inflation spike. It's a supply-based inflation spike. Look at chips with cars. Right?
Yeah, I've heard that argument. I can't say I disagree. I just think about $4 trillion injected directly into the economy. This is not like 2008 where we had the bailout and they went to the banks and injected and boosted their balance sheets. This was $4 trillion directly sent to the people. You gotta expect some cause and effect there from that, right?
Temporary blip. It's sent to the people. The people spent it on iPhones and flat screens, and it's gone. Did those people put that money in the bank, or did they put it in crypto or income producing investments? No. People either pay
So you're saying that you don't think a fraction of that 4 trillion didn't spill over into crypto? I definitely think it has.
very, very small fraction, but listen, when people get checks, right? The type of people who put money consistently into productive investments, they do it as a lifestyle, as a habit.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to do it more because the government sent them a check for $1,200, right? The people who do it are going to do it with the $1,200, but they did it with all the money before then and all the money they have afterwards.
So it's the windfall. It's the windfall behavior. Then right. You're saying, like, most people that get a windfall lose it in X amount of years.
And $1,200 is not going to do much, It would
have
been decently in Bitcoin, but that's not where it went.
but you got a lot of people that the business loans, the what do you call it, PPP loans, and there was a lot of money that business owners and stuff were able to get access to that in normal terms or environments they wouldn't be, right?
Okay. Without that, they would have collapsed. That's what was given. The government's not stupid. They know, people are not doing what they may have intended to do, but that was to keep the business afloat. For instance, you mentioned interest rates.
Yeah.
Okay. The government says they're going to start raising interest rates, and the raising of the interest rates is supposed to quell inflation. That's nonsense. Well, if you have access to a computer, take a look at the 10-year yield over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Pull that up, and then look at when the government raised rates. I think the first time was last quarter. Rates have been going up for over a year. Okay, well over a year. So what's the Fed doing? The Fed is not raising rates. The market is raising rates, and the Fed is just playing lip service that pretend, or at least make people believe that they have control over the rates. They don't. Rates are going up on their own, as Mother Market says they should.
Interesting. Let me know in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, how you feel about that. If you agree with Reggie that, we don't really have an overheating economy. And I kind of agree with you on the fact that the Feds are probably just getting in front of what the market is already doing, as you stated. I can agree with that.
And also, that's not a matter of feeling or opinion. Pull the chart up. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. So it's not we don't have to feel anyway. In my opinion, it has nothing to do with it. Look at the 10-year yield over 3 years. And look at when the Fed raised rates. The rates have been going up steadily.
So you don't feel like we're going into a recession, though? I mean, we're starting to get a yield inversion going on, long and short end. That's typally always right.
We're going to stagflation.
Stagflation. Can you explain to the audience stagflation?
Stagflation is the worst of worst worlds. If you there's a nice long article on it on Boombust's blog. If you just Google boombustblog.com stagflation analysis, it'll bring you right there. Stagflation is when you have the worst of inflation and the worst of recession. Okay, so you have economic stagnation, which is the stag part, and you have inflation. So normally when you have inflation, people think you have inflation on a demand side inflation. It's because of what you said. The economy is running so hot. People are making so much money. There's so much business being done. They're buying up all the supplies and driving prices up. Okay. Supply side inflation is, regardless of what the demand is, there's just not enough things to go around. Okay. Supply side inflation is structural, which means the Fed can't do anything about it. Okay, the Fed can't make Russia stop bombing Ukraine, no matter what they put the interest rates at. Okay, so if the bombing of Ukraine and the geopolitical machinations that are being used to try and pull Russia back start working, and Russia decides not to give oil or overpriced oil or whatever happens to be the case, well, then you're going to have inflated energy prices. Not because the European economy is on fire, because it's not. It's the opposite. It's because Russia is not delivering gas and oil to the France, Germany, and Italy.
Yeah, and so I have, ladies and gentlemen, this report or blog article that Reggie wrote back in November of 2022.
Another call.
Yeah, I mean, you were a little early, but I mean, I don't think I was hearing anyone really talk about stagflation back then at that point. So that's interesting. So at this point, where do we go?
Just to jump in, I was actually right on time. That was right before lockdown. Okay, so lockdown and then the stimulus caused by it pushed that out about a year and change. So
Gotcha.
I was accurate, but pandemic, I can't predict the
Can't
pandemic.
predict that, right? Right.
I knew a
can't
pandemic was
predict
coming
black
sooner or
swans.
later.
Right. Oh, so you in cahoots with Bill Gates? You knew sooner or later.
Not about, look at the people who study that, and they say, listen, the country wasn't prepared for a pandemic, and diseases happen. Viruses don't really care who's in office, and they don't really care what your opinion is. Right. Viruses happen, right?
Right. So how are you playing the markets, from an investment standpoint? Like, would you be cash, short, long? Yeah. And when I say markets, all risk on assets, pretty much. I'm just curious about your opinion on that.
That's a nuanced conversation that can't be fit in the 40 minutes we have here. But what I'm doing personally is I'm all in on IP, I have some crypto assets, but I'm all in on IP. I think IP is, at least good IP, is the best risk-adjusted reward you could possibly take or pursue without a single doubt. This is the crypto distributed ledger technology revolution is most likely going to outdo the internet in terms of speed of adoption, the effective adoption, and the change that will make. And you don't see what the internet did. Imagine if you owned the infrastructure to the internet.
Yeah.
Versus buying AOL stock or Google stock.
Right. So let's start getting into this report, this DAO report that extensive 22 page report you put out. I don't know if it's free for people to consume, or do they have to be a part of your membership? How does that all work?
I just sent it out to the small and medium concerns such as yourselves, because there's a reason why it's not going to be reported in big media concerns. That's conflict of interest. I'm not going to go into detail unless you want me to, but they're not going to snitch on their friends, shall I say?
Right.
But it's a story that needs to get out. It will save some investors an awful lot of money, not all their money.
Yeah. So who is this guy? I've been seeing you kind of retweet with replies. This Fred Rispoli. Who was this guy?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't tweet and retweet by name. I retweet by content. So, if someone says something worthwhile and I think it's accurate or insightful, I'll spread it, to my followers.
So he's saying, you said you have no idea. He said here, after many hours of preparation and legal research, I am confident our case should not have an effect on other litigation, but during the last week, I have been contacted by various entities about things happening behind the scenes that I have no way of knowing. So I'm wondering, what is the context?
So that's the lawyer that filed suit against the ex-chair of the SEC, and and Hinman, who was one of the commissioners. Hinman gave that now infamous speech that Ethereum is not a security, but all of Ethereum's competitors apparently were, including my company. And Jay Clayton, who was the chairman of the SEC, who filed suit against Ethereum the day before he left office, December 31st. They also filed suit against me. And coincidentally, and I have nothing against Ethereum or Ethereum's promoters or backers. I think it's a cool project. So this has nothing, it's not personal. But if you look at the facts, all of Ethereum's major competitors caught heat from the SEC and were taken out or hampered, including myself. Now, a lot of people would say, well, Veritasium is very different from Ripple. Yeah, it's arguable. Ethereum,
well, you run on top of a blockchain. You're not a blockchain.
Right. Well, more importantly is Ethereum, the blockchain, and everything that runs on top of it infringes on my patented IP in the US and Japan. And Ethereum is primarily US. So, there is no greater competitor to Ethereum than myself, ourselves, if we were to compete. So if that could be taken out of the picture by a force who is sweet on Ethereum, well, then I think that might happen. Now, this is all conjecture.
But my question, though,
all conjecture, but this is a guy who filed suit because he felt they were playing favorites.
But my pushback to you is that how can you be a competitor to Ethereum when you run on top of Ethereum?
Easily, right? If Ethereum, here it's like this. I move into your house, okay? You own your house. You have a title to it. It's yours, right? I move in and I start renting rooms out. So I'm running on top of your house. Are we competing if I rent your bedroom out?
No, I would say not, because I own the house. I can kick you out.
Well, if you're kicking me out, we're competing, or else you wouldn't want to kick me out, brother. Right?
No, I'm just saying, I think we're comparing apples and oranges. Like you're an app or a DApp on top of the Ethereum network. You're not the infrastructure pipe layer one.
Yes, I am. The infrastructure pipe layer one infringes on my IP. It's mine. It belongs. The IP that infrastructure is running on belongs to Reginald Middleton. You can look the patent up. You can go through the claims. You know, we put a lot of research into it. That IP belongs to me.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if I'll try to leave a link to my previous interview with Reggie, and we went extensively into his patent. Very interesting, and I'm I've had my opinions about it, and I really hope that he can make some headway. I have my doubts on how that's going to be executed and how much money it's going to take, but I think Reggie feels pretty confident in that path. But I guess we can kind of segue into, before we actually do that, I gotta play this video, man. This is you gotta explain what you were intending to do here with this one. I just let the audience hear this.
Polymath, pontificator, pugilist, patented property holder of peer-to-peer capital markets, pioneer of decentralized finance, also patented, covering or touching roughly 70% of the entire crypto market. Philosopher, pugilist again, I fight intellectually. Reggie Middleton.
What was the goal of that one? What were you trying to, and who were you throwing shots at?
I wasn't throwing shots at anything. Not everything's a conspiracy where I'm throwing shots at everybody. Like, what's the title of the clip?
The title of that clip is I don't know. It just says here, you said here, I'm quoting here, I'm going to let more of my real persona.
The title is, who the hell is Reggie Middleton? So for
I didn't see that.
Okay. So for someone who doesn't know who I am, that's a 36-second clip. Okay. Now, there are two ways to look at it. Now, one of my strengths, I'm not smarter than everybody else. Okay. But one of my major strengths is that I know where my weaknesses lie.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. So instead of trying to pretend I'm very smart in a subject that I'm not very smart in, I either learn or I find somebody who's very good at it and have them work with me, for me, or teach me. Okay. So from IP perspective, this clip has very, very utilitarian. But I'm not going to go through why as of yet, because but there's a reason for every single thing that I do. Okay.
Right, and that's why I asked what was that? What was the whole goal behind that? But it sounds like you got a whole 4D chess maneuver that you're.
It's actually simply checkers. You just got to read the rules. Just got to read the rule book. But the obvious thing is, not everybody knows who I am, so it's a quick introduction. Okay. And
it's interesting that not many people know about you, because you've been in media.
Yeah, a lot of finance people know about me, but
right, a lot of finance, right?
Yeah, and in the crypto side, there's a concerted effort to mute any positive contribution. Right. Trust me, the negative stuff comes like this. The SEC filed charges. That's all over the place.
Yep.
My SIM card was swapped. That was all over the place. I patent intellectual property that touches 70% of crypto. Crickets. Okay. Crickets. But if you know IP law in the U.S. and Japan, Europe, and even China, if you know it very well, you realize whoever is bringing those crickets in is making a dramatic and a significant error. And they're really, really doing me a very, very big favor. Okay? I'm not going to go into why just now, because I don't want to educate them and then they start blasting me all over media. But that silence is basically making Veritasium a permanent part of the infrastructure of crypto for decades to come.
So you're nominated is what I'm hearing. I keep seeing comments under, various videos of mine under, I think a couple of your tweets. I saw this. Are you nominated for a National Medal of Technology and Innovation?
That's what I hear. I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm not part of the process, but there's a small contingent of people who actually appreciate what I've done. And I'm very grateful and I'm humbled. So thank you, anybody who did nominate me or vote for me. I appreciate it. I'm very humble.
So do you know anything about how people can vote for you?
I don't know offhand, but I'm pretty sure if you go to the actual site, it'll show you. Or better yet, if you go to the Veritasium Telegram group, they'll, let you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was curious about that. The main point of the video, the interview, the chat, the kicking the session, whatever you want to call it, ladies and gentlemen, is to talk about this new report that Reggie has sent out to a couple of media outlets that he knows it would cover it, me being one of them. And I wanted to kind of just do a quick glance over, and I don't know if I'm able to share this with individuals after the video or not. You have to let me know, Reggie, but this was titled "On the Self-Destructive Lack of Prudent Due Diligence When Investing Through DAOs." Okay, so there are a couple things in here that I wanted to touch on with you, Reggie, today, and one of those being this whole code is law. Now, you have a different take on it than from what I understood code is law is all about. For me, I thought code is law means that if it's coded in there on the blockchain, it is what it is. It didn't have to necessarily have anything to do with the judicial system, but if it's there in the code, there's no way for you to negotiate, to argue about, or anything. The code is law in that aspect. So you have a different take on what code is law is and the falsehoods of it. So can you go into what you mean with this code is law piece here? You got.
Yeah, this is a short conversation. Code is code. Law is law. There you go. And it's just that simple. You have developers who came up with code is law. I guarantee you they weren't lawyers.
Probably not.
Lawyers would have corrected you quick, fast. Here's a quick litmus paper test, right? If code is law, then why is everybody concerned about what Gary Gensler and the SEC is doing? Just code, SEC can't touch us. And voila, you can do all the ICOs and stock offerings on the blockchain you want. But that's not the way it works now, is it, right?
Well, no, because we're wrapping and weaving in there legal entities. So now that's now where we're having to really look at the law and figure out if those entities are abiding by the laws within that jurisdiction. But what's interesting is this DAO thing. I feel like this is another point. I guess we can kind of segue into that if you don't have anything else to say about that. But the DAOs, to me, is a way to say F the law.
How?
Because I see in your report you're saying that the individuals will be at risk with this structure, right? That's what you're saying in a DAO.
Why would they be at risk?
Well, you were saying that basically some legal research have been done about this, and you say here that without jurisdiction, thus immune to traditional legal jurisdiction. You're going on to say here, each and every member of the DAO is potentially jointly and severely exposed to the liabilities of that partnership, unbound by an actual capital invested in the partnership.
Okay, so that's severally liable. So several.
Oh, several. Okay, several.
Too, but
severally exposed. I'm sorry.
So what that means is, you said that we're discussing SEC. You said we're mixing legal entities in there. If you're operating in the United States, law runs the United States. And just because you wrote code doesn't mean law doesn't run the United States. So DAOs are legal entities. It's just that simple. You might not think so, but if you were to go to court in a dispute, there's a very, very strong chance. I have not seen any competent lawyer that I know of argue against the fact that a DAO will be considered a legal entity. But because it wasn't doesn't have a corporate wrapper, okay, a liability limiting entity that it's placed in, it will be considered a general partnership. A general partnership is basically a group or an association of individuals for a particular purpose. A general partnership, pure raw general partnership, means every partner in that partnership is jointly and severally, which means together they're liable for all the risks, and separately they're liable for all the risks of that venture.
And you said in here that DAOs may be stateless, but they do operate in states. I like that point. That is very true. However, my pushback on that, Reggie, is the fact that I think currently most DAOs aren't structured the way that they will be in the future in a fully decentralized, distributed way. What I mean by that is I see a period in time in the future here where DAOs will be fully autonomized and run by individuals that they're not doxed, basically. So a lot of these DAOs that you have today are doxed. Everyone knows who owns or a portion of those tokens or the major stakeholders of those DAOs. And so a lot of the organizations that you have listed in your report, you name all the people, Peter Thiel or, XYZ Capital. And so these are known members of the DAO. But what about a situation in the future where most DAOs are anonymous? The owners are anonymous. You don't have any one person to go after.
Number one, if they're totally anonymous, there's but so much capital that can flow through to it. Once significant capital goes through, you'll be able to find it. Remember, these DAOs operate on the internet. They need a web presence, which means there's a domain name server somewhere. Okay, somebody's paying for it. It had to be paid for by somebody or it wouldn't be there. Okay, servers are being run, AWS, etc., or you have your own hosting service. There's many, many ways to find out. Right now, if you look at my tweets, I give example of 3 or 4 different lawsuits against DAOs right now. Right. And the DAOs are almost guaranteed to lose because they can't respond because they're so-called decentralized. Now, we all know that's a crock of nonsense, right? But let's assume they really are decentralized. If you're decentralized, you get sued, you can't respond. If you don't respond, you lose by default. It's called summary judgment. Now,
right, but who's gonna after that? What happens if they lose?
This is the hard part. I mean, this is the part that hurts. You take that summary judgment paper, right? You take that paper. This is actually a patent, right? But let's assume it's a summary judgment. You take this summary judgment paper, and then you serve it to each and every member of the DAO. And each and every member of that DAO now is liable for the full amount of the lawsuit. So let's say that DAO, let's say it's a patent infringement suit, and that DAO made a lot of money, or the project that the DAO was operating. And there's $100 million worth of compensatory payments that are owed to XYZ. But because that DAO ignored the papers, ignored notice, now there's up to treble damages. So now that $100 million becomes $300 million. Okay? You invest in a DAO, you put 1 Bitcoin into the DAO, or 1 ETH even. So you put roughly $4,000 into that DAO. I find you. You now owe me $300 million on your $4,000 investment. And you're liable for all $300 million of it.
Are you serious? That's the way it goes down, huh?
That's called the law. Now,
wow.
You know why that doesn't happen to a lot of smart business people? Because they want to limit their liability. So they invest through an investment vehicle with a liability limit, an LLC, an LLP, a corporation, an Inc.
That's cool.
So now, when you put $4,000 in, the most you can lose is how much? $4,000. But you want to go in naked? Well, you're in for the whole kit and caboodle. Now, there's some pretty big investors who've done this. A16 from Andreessen Horowitz.
I saw that.
Square Ventures,
Peter
Bain
Thiel,
Capital, Coinbase Venture. The biggest, most professional private equity and venture capital investors in the country have run through this. And I can tell you right now, some of the lawsuits are for fraud, unregistered securities offerings, etc. Some might be a little shaky, but I know 2 patent instances where it's rock solid and strong, and those dudes are probably not going to lose at all. Okay, And it's a guaranteed win because the investors went through a DAO. So with a DAO, you have two choices. You could ignore it,
or you
say
can
you
vote
can't respond.
you can vote to accept it, right?
Well,
Take ownership, or
after you vote to accept it, then what happens? Who goes to court?
you hire a lawyer.
Who's going to hire the lawyer? A decentralized
You vote on it. You vote on it.
But who's going to hire the lawyer? You vote yes. The lawyer has to sign a contract, retainer with somebody. Who's it going to be?
The DAO.
If the DAO can sign a retainer, then a DAO is centralized. It's not decentralized.
No, you can have a multi-sig, where you have you only need X amount of votes to basically say that lawyer is retained.
Though. You're missing a point. Once you get those votes, an entity has to sign a retainer. And once the entity is exposed, now you're centralized and you could be sued. You could be served, you could be sued. Okay?
I hear you.
I want to walk this through because this is, part of the things that people don't get. DAOs have two choices. They have a horrible choice, and then they have a much worse choice. And they got to pick one of those two. Okay? The horrible choice is to respond and show up in court. Okay, I'm sorry. The horrible choice is to ignore it, saying we're decentralized. Then you get a summary judgment, and now someone comes and hunts each and every member of that DAO. And every person they find is liable for the full amount they're suing for, regardless of how much they have, regardless of how much they invested. The worst alternative is to respond. Because if you respond, then the entire purpose of forming a DAO is nonsense, proven. Because you're not decentralized. You're centralized enough where you could show up in court and you could pay.
So is it that you're just early in critiquing this new type of business formation or organization formation? Is it that you're just early in, and like you're always early? I mean, I have. So what I mean by that is we'll eventually have it where the courts change and they adapt to and are able to deal with DAOs in a decentralized manner.
Well, they're able to deal with DAOs right now. There are DAOs in court right now, or at least DAOs being sued. The laws deal with that. A DAO will be considered an unincorporated business partnership. Okay, so that's what the judge is going to consider it. If you were a judge, right, and I came to you and said, we have Compound DAO, right? Compound DAO has a project that is using Reggie Middleton's technology, okay? And we're saying Compound DAO is trying to avoid service, this trying to avoid saying they exist. But the judge says, well, what is Compound DAO? And I'll say, well, it's a group of 5,000 members who invested money together to finance a business, which is lending, okay? And they vote on running that business periodically. And they get benefits and profits from that business. The judge would say, that sounds like a partnership to me. Would you think that judge is out of line?
No.
Okay. And trying to convince the judge of something else is going to be very, very difficult.
So are you saying in your report that Compound is one of the DAOs that has infringed on your patents? I see you said they've infringed on multiple patents. Is yours included in that?
I don't know if I put it in the report or not, but they are. The vast majority of projects are. Put it this way, the fact that Compound runs on Ethereum means it infringes, but Compound also infringes individually. Now, me saying it infringes is not me saying I'm going to go and sue Compound, drive them out of business. You asked a specific question if I felt they infringe.
Right.
And they do. They infringe by running on Ethereum, and they infringe in terms of the actual mechanism that they're using to run on Ethereum.
So why wouldn't you go after them then? If you feel confident in the flaws of a DAO, they've got a chink in their armor. That's the Achilles heel. You should just be able to, that could be your low hanging fruit then, right?
Everything's my low hanging fruit that's infringing. So I'm not discussing my plans because we're a private company, but I'm not going out saying I'm going to sue X, Y, and Z, or, that's not what I put out was pure research. And the research should be considered gold since nobody else is putting this research out, except for, believe it or not, the lead investor, the biggest investor in Compound DAO. Their lawyers said the same thing I'm saying, right? You go look at A16Z's, Andreessen Horowitz, look at their lawyer, which is one of the big, I think it's Skadden Arps, if I'm not mistaken, one of the biggest, most prominent law firms in the country. I think it's Skadden, I'm not sure. And they have a white paper, and it was quoted by one of the entities who was suing Compound. Okay, they drew up the legal papers, they didn't file them yet. And they have an excerpt where A16Z's lawyers are saying that DAOs will likely or possibly be considered a general business partnership. I think it's in a report right there.
Yeah, so, here it is right here.
Yeah, you can't defend yourself when you're a lawyer. It's saying the same thing that the guy suing you is saying.
Yeah, so if you guys want to read this quote, just pause your screen and check this out. This is in the report. Yeah, Skadden Arps. Yeah.
Skadden Arps is big league. You know, they're one of the most powerful firms in the country.
So, I mean, where do we go from here? Like, how do you feel this is going to pan out over the next year or two for DAOs? Is this going to be like the next fly-by-night ICO?
Well, it's going to be worse than that because there's a decent amount of money stuck in and it's going to get ugly. Let's suppose $1 billion was invested in DAOs, okay? But more than that's been invested because you have much more than that. But let's say $1 billion from the investment side has been invested in DAOs. But in terms of total value locked, you know, hundreds of billions, right? Definitely tens of billions easily, okay? And then if the investors of DAOs are jointly and severally liable, and these DAOs are generating a decent amount of the projects that the DAOs are funding are generating a lot of money, okay? That means there's a lot of liability being generated as well. And these investors are wide open. Whatever you use to invest in the DAO is wide open to liability, wide open. So you have this XYZ hedge fund, you know, you have the Detroit Bangers hedge fund, you know, DBHF, right? And they invest $100,000 in the Compound and make a DAO. They're walking out with $600 million of liability. That means all the investors are going to get wiped. Okay? If they get wiped, and they get wiped because the Detroit Bangers hedge fund decided not to even check for patent infringement or IP, and they invested in a way that exposed the entire fund, what do you think happens next?
The same scenario you said. Every member is liable, right?
Right. They're jointly severally liable. They may get wiped out. They're going to go and sue the hedge fund because that violated what you call duty of care. Basically, you know, you're a professional. We're giving you money, right? And you're supposed to look out for these basic investment criteria, such as, does the entity that I'm investing in own the IP that they're using? Nobody even bothered to check. So now you're going to have patent infringement lawsuits. You're going to have duty of care and lawsuits. You're going to have investor lawsuits. You're going to have limited partner lawsuits. It's going to be a big mess.
Yeah, but I think I agree. You're probably going to see that. But I think at the end of the day, as we become more savvy in our decentralization tactics on the blockchain, I mean, today I could spin up a server without any identity. I don't know with domain names. I mean, you got unstoppable domains. And so there will be a point where I can set up a website with no linkage to my identity. And I know for sure, you know, in 5 years, you'll be able to do that. So at that point, I mean, you'll have...
I agree. You can do IPFS and all that. But you know something? Once you start bringing in $4 or $5 billion, you can't do that. Okay? Once you start bringing in big money as investors, big money investors are not going to invest in anonymous.
But that's the power of distribution or decentralization. You got power in small sums, right? And a whole bunch of little people coming together equaling the $3 billion worth of capital. Then what?
It sounds good, but the biggest projects are funded by the biggest guys. You're right back to traditional Wall Street, dude. Not a single difference. What you said sounds good, but the problem is it doesn't describe the reality. The reality is Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, Bain Capital.
So those individuals just won't use DAOs, and it'll be left to the scenario that I just mentioned. It'll be left to those people
until it gets big. See, here's the solution, and the solution is very simple. Limit your liability. Wyoming has an LLC made specifically for
DAOs. Yes.
Specifically for DAO.
Yes.
Now, it's called a limited liability company for a reason. You want to limit your liability. Yes, you're taking risk. That's how you make money. You take risk. But you want the risk to be quantified. You want to know how much risk you're taking. You don't want the risk to be able to wipe you and your family out. You want, if I invest $100,000, then my limit is right at $100,000.
All right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. I don't know again if Reggie's going to share this document with the public, but you know, this was enlightening for sure for me, because I didn't even think of it from that standpoint, as far as, you know, the individuals in the DAOs having that much liability. So, you know, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that. Have you heard about this this angle? I surely haven't. This is new to me. And yeah, go ahead, Reggie.
Yeah, let's have the discussion on Twitter after this. I'm active on Twitter at Reggie Middleton. Okay, and ask questions. And, you know, again, this is not opinion. They have lawsuits filed right now. Fraud, patent infringement.
But has a judgment been made yet? Have we had a watermark, a precedent made in any DAO cases yet?
Not yet, because they just filed. So it takes time. To be truthful, the first week in May, I think, is the first deadline. And it's like this. That DAO has 2 decisions. None of them are good. I mean, 2 choices. They can respond or they cannot respond. Either one is bad. If they respond, it defeats the whole purpose of a DAO. It's no longer distributed autonomous. It's a dude responding in court. Okay.
Yeah.
If they don't respond, then they lose. So the DAO may be distributed, but someone's going to walk with a judgment to each and every distributed member and knock on their door. And now you're done.
Wow. Well, guys, get with Reggie on Twitter. He's very active on there, and join his Veritasium Telegram room as well. He's pretty active there as well. So again, thanks for coming on, Reggie. Looking forward to talking to you in the future. I want to have you back on in maybe a few months to see with some of these DAO cases how they end up, and see if you're right again. It's very interesting. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you found this interview informative. If you want to see more like it, it's your boy Crypto Blood. That's another kick in the session. We out of here. Holla!